Yeah, basically, today it is a kind of revise or repeat section for the few topics which already Ubed has explained. So today, what I'm thinking is what is database, why it is used, and create database, and using create tables. Maybe this can be again explained later in detail, but just we'll create one table and go through the select queries. Yeah, basically, what is database already, as we know, database is used to organize the data and for managing the data. Managing the data in the sense like creating the data which is required for serving the client's request, as well as it is also used to store the data as well as the retrieval of the data. So basically, database is used for managing the data or organizing the data. We can say organization in the sense includes manipulation as well. Like wherever any organization requires some kind of data, they can store the data into the uh, database, as well as whenever needed, they can retrieve the data, as well as they can manipulate the data. So as and when needed. So for this purpose, databases are used. One of the databases is SQL, which is Microsoft provided database. SQL means like structured query language. So in SQL, the data will be stored in the form of tables, is organized in the form of tables. So that is the main purpose of using the database. So in SQL, in any database, basically there are four operations which are basically used to organize the data or to maintain the data. So those are called CRUD operations. So CRUD operation is nothing but creating, reading, updating, and deleting. So these are the four basic operations which are needed for any kind of database to organize the data. So what we can do is, as we already know, what is database. Uh, when we install the SQL server, so by default, you can see here, we can see these databases by default, master, model, MSDB, TempDB. But basically, every organization wants to store their data into a separate, their own databases. So initially, we need to create a database. So we can create the database. You see here, when you open this SQL Server, you can see this pane. So this is the kind of pane for working with SQL Server Management Studio. It is SSMS. So you can to open the SSMS, actually you can click on SSMS here, and you can open the SQL Server Management Studio, and it will open this SQL Server Management Studio database. Once you open it, so here you can see in the left pane, all the databases are mentioned. So, and to create, we need to go to the query pane actually. So it will provide a query pane for us. So if you see in the top of this SSMS, you can see a new query option here. So, or you can even click on Control N. So if you click on this new query, we can see here a new query pane is open, where you can where we can work with our queries, whatever queries we need to like creating or doing CRUD operations. So as I said, we'll create a new database for our purpose. So let me use the query. So the query to create a new database is create database name. So this is the structure. This is the syntax of creating a new database. Create database and database name we need to give. So I'm creating a new database. Create database. Here you see currently I have in system in databases, I have system databases, database snapshots, and one of the test DB which is created recently, my test DB. So let me create a new database with name practice DB. Okay. So we can click on this execute to create a new database. That is one option. Or to use the keypad, we can use press F5 button to execute the queries which we are returning in this query pane. So let me click on this execute button. To see, create database practice DB. So here you can see the results in the below pane. So once we executed this, you can see here below it is displaying the result pane. So with messages, commands completed successfully. So it means we have created a database is created in this SQL Server Express instance with the name practice DB. So to see that, just refresh it. So this is the refresh option. You see here we can see the practice DB. So basically how the data is organized in SQL Server is like in the form of tables, we say. So if you open this pane, you can see there are different options here listed out: database diagrams, tables, views, external. So but basically the data is organized in the form of tables. So here if you see, these are the like table system tables. None of the tables are created because just we created a custom database, right? So if we see already existing system databases, there might be some tables available for our reference purposes. Okay. So this is currently empty database which we have created. It doesn't have any of the tables. So to organize the data for any organization, initially they go with a new database. They create a new database, and after that, based upon the requirements, the tables can be created. Okay, this is the first command for creating the database. So any queries till now? Is it okay, Safiban?
Yeah, types of database, relational or something.
Okay, types of databases.
Data, database, relational or something.
Yeah, there will be relational databases as well. So this comes under RDBMS, Relational Database Management System only, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going into the details of types of databases actually, right? So directly started with SQL, it is an RDBMS system. So if you have anything like Ubed, you would like to add anything there, types of databases?
Yeah, so there are other types that we went over them in our first session, but let's focus on relational right now. If you get a chance, then
Yeah.
go to the other types.
Sure. So this is a relational database only. So okay. Is it okay, Safiman, right? So we can go through the other databases later if required. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a relational database system. So currently we have created an empty database which doesn't have any of the tables. So to create a query, to create the databases, this is the query. So you can make a note of this to create in your own, just like for practice purposes. So to comment, actually, we can use these lines, dash lines, actually, this one, so that it will be commented. And you see, whenever we open SQL Server, right? So by default, it is whenever you click on this new query, right? So it is selecting this master database by default. But if you want to create any of the tables in the database, actually here in relational databases, the data will be organized into the form of tables. So in the tables, the data should be created, and based upon the need, tables can be like multiple tables can be used to extract the data by joining or some other operations. So that can be discussed later. So, but basically, priority thing, first important thing in the database to manage the data is tables actually. So all the data will be managed in the form of tables, stored in tables. Then you see here, if we want to use any of the database, this is an empty database, as we said. Currently, we have created. There are no custom tables are available here. No tables are available, in fact. So, if, for example, a company has like employees, a company will be having definitely employees. They want to manage their employees' data. So how they are going to store the data and retrieve the data. So table is nothing but it is a set of rows. So the data can be stored in table in the form of rows and columns. So if they want to store the data of their employees, then they have to create their one of the table in which they can store their employees' data, and they can perform the CRUD operations, as we said. So to create the table, actually, for example, employee data object, employee table, we need to create to manage the employee records, right? So what is required? What kind of basic information is required for an employee to maintain his data? So basically, employee will have in organization will have the employee IDs. This is the basic structure. Employee IDs will be there. Then employee name will be there, like first name, last name, employee date of birth, even middle name also we can have. Generally, and employee date of joining might be there, last name, date of birth, date of joining, and country, we can say, right? Even address also we can include. So these are basic columns that might be required to maintain the basic information of the employee. Let me increase the size. So let me create quickly. Maybe this query we can discuss later, but let me create one table to store the employee details in our practice database. Okay. So, but if you see here, when I click on new query, what is happening? Okay, I have put the cursor over here, so it selected practice DB. So let me put here. You see here. So it is going to master by default. So we want to create our table within practice DB. Either you can select this practice DB and click on new query, or if you want to go through the pane, we can say that use database name. So this is the actually query to go to the database, actually to select one of the particular database to perform the operations in that particular database. So I am using use practice DB. You see, it is giving our intelligence as well. So we can select the database name from here and press F5. So commands completed successfully. So what happened? Okay, so it is now changed to practice DB. Now I want to create a table. So let me create quickly. Create table. Table name should be just LQ my employees. And what are the columns we have thought of including? Employee ID. And these columns, actually, when we are using, right, it should not have any spaces in between them, column names, okay? Employee ID, it should be integer, it will have the numbers, right? So, and we can specify this constant as well here, whether we want to allow, maybe this syntax later we can actually go through in detail, but we can specify the this constant, whether it can be null or not null as well. If you want to have the compulsory value, we should mention as not null. first name. It can be null, okay. It can be characters. First name. And date of birth. Date time. Date of yes. And country will take one. So if we in the pane, if you have multiple queries, actually, either we can select, we want to execute a single query, we can select that particular query and we can click on the execute. It will be created. If you want to execute all the queries, then no need to select any of the query. Directly we can run execute button. So I have created a table now. So just may refresh it. You see here, we can see that my employees table is being created. So if you right click on this table, we can go through the design. You see here, whatever columns we have created, you see employee ID, right? So if it is having different columns, you see column name, data type. Data type means what kind of data we are going to place into that particular column. Okay, so it will be integer type. Integer means like numbers kind of thing. Okay, so employee ID will be having the integer type, and this is the constant allow nulls. So whether when we are inserting the data, when we are performing the operation, whether we can allow null values or not into this particular column. So allow nulls is here not selected. So it is not permitted. Okay. Like for all other columns, like first name can have where characters. This is allow nulls is selected. So like this, we have remaining other columns as well. Country also we can say not null. Okay. Okay, so this is the design, and even we can go through column wise, I think later, right? So just I created this now, and we can use it perform different operations here. Select top 10,000 rows, edit top 200 rows, and even we can create the script actually. So this also we can go through later. So simply let me execute this now. Select, like as we said, when the tables are created, there are multiple operations we perform. Why we save the data into the database is to perform the to manipulate the data to perform the multiple operations like CRUD operations, like read, update, delete, right? So read operation. So create, already we have seen one create table, but even we can insert the create also, like insert. Okay, insert new things into the database. Either it might be creating new database, or if it is database is available, inserting the records into the database tables. Like we have created a new table, then we can insert the new records into the table, as well as we can read. So read the records from the table is done through select query. So this can be select. And existing if any updates has to be done to the data, then we can go for the update operations. Then if you want to delete, we can go for the delete operations. So currently we have the empty table. So there are two ways of inserting the data if we have the admin rights. So basically this process, this will not be like practice in the real time. But if you want to like insert few of the data through design also, we can insert the employee IDs. Just right click and edit 200 rows option. Then you can directly insert the data into the table. First name, let me give like step test, last name, date of birth. Sorry. You see here, you can see I am inserting string was not recognized as a valid date time. Why it is giving that error is the basic default format of this date type format is like year, month, and date. So I am giving the month value as 13. So that's why it is giving that error. Okay, now the error is not coming. Then date of joining. Okay, country. So let me give USA. Tab 102. Last name XYZ. Date of birth 1999. And date of joining and give 2020. Okay. Now let me give USA again. On 102. Again, I'm inserting the same record, you see, because we don't have any constants, which does not allow the duplicates. Okay. We can just stick that as well, but that we can see later. So let me give 103 for now. And give first name as what we can give. Okay, date of birth as 1980. 20. India I'll give, okay. 100, one more I'll insert. Okay, these 4 records I have inserted now. So how can we select the records is here also we have the query. We can see right click on this database object and click on select top 1000 rows. Okay. You see these are the 4 records we have inserted into the database. So there are how to insert the records using queries we can see later. So currently we'll focus on like reading the details from the table, actually reading the data from the reading or extracting the data from the table. So here by default you can see the select top 1000 and it is showing the employee ID, first name, last name, all the column names from. So this is practice DB is the database. DBO means database owner that employees. Okay, from my employees. So it is already forming a query for us to retrieve the data from the table. So if you want to write our own query and if you want to select all the records from a particular table, then if you are not on the current database, we can go to the required database, use practice DB. Then the query to select the records from a particular table is select star from table name. This is the query syntax to select all the records from the table. So this star represents all the columns. If we do not want all the columns from a particular table, then we can mention whatever columns we require to like select from the table. So here I am selecting all the columns, select star from what is the table name we have to give. DBO dot my employees. Okay, you see now I have got all 4 rows. The other way is select employee ID, comma, first name, comma, last name. You can mention all the columns. Okay. You see, if even if I don't give DPO dot also, it will recognize actually. So I'm commenting the above statement. Now you see, still it is displaying the same data because I have mentioned all the column names. Only the disadvantage here is like not a disadvantage, but you see it is not properly readable because all the column names are having column names in the SQL should not be having the spaces, right? So when we are representing and showing this data to some of the users, so it will not be easily readable. So in that case, actually, these queries can be used to use the like alias name when representing or displaying the data to the users actually. Like here, if you see select, we are selected all the columns from my employee. So these columns are not having proper spaces within the column names. So not properly readable actually. So for that purpose, we can use select employee ID as employee ID. So in proper English, you can write it down like this as first name, last name, as last name. Maybe data but might not be required. So we can remove that. Suppose whatever columns are requiring, we can display that only. Okay. As date of joining, country as country. Okay. Now you can see these columns are properly readable. Employee ID, first name, last name, date of joining, country. And it is not displaying date of birth now because we have not selected the date of birth over here. So this is alias name can be like used with the square brackets or also you can use check single quotes also we can use, but the basically we use square brackets in user practice actually. And now it is displaying this data, and we have multiple other operations as well which we can do using select queries. Like here, if we have any duplicate data, for example, means like suppose if you want to know how many countries are there, how many employees are there, means like how many countries the employees are belongs to are present into this table. So here we can see USA is having 2 records and India is one and Malaysia is one. So there are 3 countries the employee belongs to. So we would like to know the different countries the employee belongs to. Then we can go with select country from my employees. Okay, here it is displaying all the countries, right? But we want to know distinct countries. We want to know what are the different countries are available. So we can go with the keyword distinct. Distinct country. So it will display now only the distinct countries available in that particular apply table. So this is one thing. And if you want to know the count of distinct countries, right? So we have the count the function as well. So select count of, first we'll see with country. Okay, how many countries are available? Okay. Okay, it is displaying. You see, I have not selected this particular query and executed, so it has executed all the queries within that query pane. So we are getting all the results over here. If you see, it is displaying in the last column, you see 4. But basically, these are only 3 countries, right? USA, India, and Malaysia. These are not. It is displaying all the. Means like it is taking the country column from each and every row, and it is counting them, and it is displaying all the count of country rows. But we need to know how many distinct countries are available. Then simply use distinct key here. You see, now it is displaying the correct count for us actually. So this is to count the rows or count the distinct rows from the select query. And also, okay. Any doubts till now?
No,
Pokemon?
no doubt. We have 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes left. Any questions? Let's maybe stop here and then
Okay.
continue next time. We'll spend these 2.5 minutes right now on any question.
So we can break for 3 minutes.
No, so far no questions at all?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question actually. I mean,
Okay.
why does it show this red underlines?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, actually, it is not recognizing it actually. So
Yeah, probably because the table was just added.
Pardon?
Maybe the table was just added.
yeah, table is just added. DB is also just created, but still, it after when we close and come back, it should show, right? Or there will be some
Right,
limit
yeah.
for the.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Let me check one
Okay.
second, please.
No,
Disconnect and
just,
connect. We can
just
do that.
cancel it. Yeah, that was just, I mean, other topic question.
This is there. You see here we can disconnect. Database. Let me close all. So let me connect. Database. So new query. Use
Is DB.
yeah.
Use question. Yeah, now it's coming in intelligence. So GB dot.
No, it's still it is showing. Okay, it is not the
Probably
name.
needs, yeah, probably needs some kind of refresh.
Yeah.